Hello, and thanks for tuning in. In this review, I'm going to be taking a look at an underrated horror film from the 2000s. And now, Vacancy. The movie's about a married couple going through a divorce on a road trip through the desert. They stop at an isolated motel after experiencing car trouble and soon discover that the motel workers are shooting snuff films in their room. Hijinks ensue and the bodies start to pile up, as you would imagine. It's a pretty decent premise and it's fairly well executed. The filmmakers also never shy away from admitting they were directly inspired by the original Psycho. Luke Wilson and Kate Beckinsale star as the most unconvincing married couple in cinema history. Their constant bickering does feel rather authentic. That could be because Beckinsale couldn't stand Wilson on set, constantly complaining about him being late and showing up hungover. Or it could be good writing. Who knows? Ethan Embry also turns in a pretty solid performance. The rest of the cast all do a pretty decent job as well, but really Beckinsale and Wilson are the stars for a reason. The film is able to maintain a pretty creepy vibe throughout. However, I do have to point out a couple of cases of idiotic logic and/or plot holes. The motel set was apparently built from scratch by the production crew, and I have to give them credit because it does look like a desolate, run-down motel in the middle of nowhere. Overall, the movie's pretty adequately shot, but there are a couple of scenes that are entirely too dark. It seriously just looks like the filmmakers are holding a flashlight on the actors as they walk through the desert, and I'm willing to bet that's probably what actually occurred. While it's not very long, clocking in at just 85 minutes, the pacing does have a couple of issues. It feels like the filmmakers peaked way too early, and then they didn't know where the hell to go with anything. Also, the ending is a bit of a letdown. How the hell they made a sequel to this thing is anyone's guess. The score was effective, but it was ultimately pretty forgettable. It's mostly just ominous tones, something far too many modern horror films rely on, instead of crafting an actual musical score. I have a sinking suspicion that this film might have inspired the people that made The Strangers, and I'm gonna take points off for it. Fun fact, originally the studio had chosen Sarah Jessica Parker to star. I think we dodged a bullet here, people. We dodged a bullet. In closing, you might think I'm not a fan of Vacancy, but you would be wrong. It's a relatively enjoyable 80 minutes of modern horror, and you could definitely do far worse. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and give it a watch. And if you have, maybe pay it a revisit.